If I could just start with you. Since 2008, the McKinsey company has done nearly $1 billion in consulting work for the United States government. $1 billion. And its top client has been the Defense Department. In fact, it's got contracts with the Defense Department, with the U.S. Department of the Navy, with the Homeland Security Department, with Customs and Border Patrol. I think in 2021 alone, McKinsey had Defense Department or other security agency contracts worth $850 million. It's absolutely extraordinary. And yet at the same time, they're also doing business with the Chinese government. They are simultaneously taking $1 billion from the United States and its security agencies and also getting money from not just China in general, from the Chinese government and Chinese-controlled entities. Explain to us why that is a problem. I think any normal American who's sitting out there and hears that would be absolutely outraged by it, and rightly so. Why are they getting taxpayer money advising our military and simultaneously advising the Chinese military? But just explain to us, why is this a national security concern?
Well, thank you, Senator.
Today, we're diving into a fiery Senate hearing where Senator Josh Hawley takes center stage, exposing a scandal that's left many Americans outraged. Imagine this. One of the U.S. government's biggest consulting partners, McKinsey & Company, is pocketing billions from our defense contracts while also working with the Chinese government. Senator Hawley wasted no time setting the stage. He pointed out that since 2008, McKinsey has raked in nearly $1 billion in U.S. government contracts, primarily from defense agencies like the Department of Defense and Homeland Security. But here's the kicker. They've also been advising Chinese government entities, including those tied to their military.
Now, how to strengthen Made in China 2025. The goal was to help them advance their goals for technological dominance. And that is directly at odds with the interests not just of the U.S. government, but also of the corporate clients they had in the United States that they were also advising. So there's a clear conflict of interest there. And it's also, the kind of conflict of interest that even if McKinsey had exercised better judgment about the projects it took on, other firms doing business in China are getting raided by the Chinese government. Oftentimes, that means that their data is no longer secure. And if they have U.S. client data on those servers, well, that's now Chinese data. So there's a lot of concerns, I think, that we can raise here. One is the nature of the work. Another is being a vector for the transfer of information and data. And there's a third concern, too, which is that some of these firms have mutually irreconcilable obligations to the United States and to China. China's basically saying, if you want to comply with the subpoena from this committee, you can't, because we have a data security law saying you can. That's three different kinds of conflicts beyond the one, Senator, that you just identified.
Well, that's terrific. As we think about the different things that McKinsey has advised China on, they are, for example, a major proponent and promoter of China's Belt and Road Initiative. So here they are, again, taking $1 billion in contracts from the United States military, simultaneously advising China on their Belt and Road Initiative, which is meant to undermine our military and also to undermine American companies all across the world. McKinsey has advised 9 of the top 15 Chinese contractors for the Belt and Road Initiative as of 2018. I mean, it's shameless when you think about it. It is absolutely shameless. Interestingly, I recently obtained a document related to a contract, just to give one example, involving semiconductors. So semiconductors, McKinsey entered into a contract with the U.S. government, our Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, in 2021 related to semiconductors. The DoD asked McKinsey if there was any conflict that they might have with the Chinese government. According to these documents recently released to me pursuant to a FOIA request, McKinsey submitted documentation that said that there were no conflicts at all. And in fact, as we now know, they were simultaneously advising the Chinese government on a very similar project. I mean, this to me, it seems like such common sense. The chairman and I wrote to the GAO asking for an analysis of the conflict of interest law and analysis of the procurement and contract awarding process to see if there were any strictures, limitations in current law that would prevent companies like McKinsey from simultaneously making billions from the United States and making billions on China. That report has just come back just a couple of days ago. And what it shows is that there are no such restrictions in United States law currently, which is why our legislation, the Time to Choose Act, which the chairman and I co-sponsored together, introduced and passed this committee almost unanimously, I think only one no vote, is so important because it would prevent what we see on this poster behind me. Ms. Teltman, do you want to add to this why this sort of common sense set of restrictions telling consulting firms you can't consult for the U.S. government and rake in billions from American taxpayers and consult for our chief adversary at the same time. Why this?
Now, think about that for a second. They're helping the U.S. military while also assisting China's Belt and Road Initiative, which directly undermines American interests worldwide. It's like playing for both teams in the biggest geopolitical rivalry of our time. Senator Hawley grilled Dr. Dewey, a national security expert, on why this is such a big deal. The answer? Conflicts of interest, data vulnerabilities, and outright betrayal of trust. Dr. Dewey explained that McKinsey's work for China includes advising on how to surpass U.S. technological advancements. Meanwhile, the firm's access to sensitive U.S. data through defense contracts creates a serious risk of that information being compromised. And here's something even scarier: China's government has raided foreign firms to seize their data. So, how secure is McKinsey's client data? The answer? Not very. Hawley wasn't pulling any punches. He pointed out a glaring contradiction. McKinsey claimed there were no conflicts in their work with the U.S. government and China, yet the evidence tells a different story. The senator highlighted specific examples, like McKinsey advising China on semiconductor development while simultaneously working with DARPA, one of the U.S. military's cutting-edge research arms. Let that sink in. McKinsey is essentially playing both sides of a technological arms race. Hawley made it clear this isn't just unethical, it's downright dangerous for America's security. Hawley and other senators have introduced the Time to Choose Act, aimed at banning consulting firms from working with both the U.S. government and adversaries like China. Hawley called out McKinsey's behavior as shameless and rallied for stronger laws to protect taxpayer money and national security. This Senate hearing shed light on a critical issue that impacts every American: our national security and how taxpayer money is being spent. Senator Hawley's passionate grilling revealed just how urgent it is to address these conflicts of interest. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.